How's everybody doing today? We're going to be removing this turbocharger from this 1986 300ZX Turbo. I got the engine out so it's nice and easy to see and easier to remove things. So, give you an idea of some of the tools we're going to need. We're going to need a 17mm wrench, and you're going to find one that you need to shave down. You go to a grinder and you shave the sides and the face, top and bottom down, so it has more clearance, because these nuts are really close to each other. So you need to have a shaved 17mm that can get in there and reach a nut in a tight space, like so. Now normally the box end is not strong enough to remove these, but I've removed these and put them back on several times, so it shouldn't take too much to do. Some of these can be removed by a socket, but some of these are so hard to get, only a shaved 17 is going to fit in there. So first thing I'm going to do is remove this oil line, get it out of the way. And the factory one's going to be different because this is an aftermarket oil kit. This is an aftermarket oil line kit. With your original turbo, you can use the original oil line kit because they're, they all fit the same. So, yeah. We are going to be installing a GT35 turbocharger. In order to do this, see the space here is very small. So when I put this bigger turbocharger there, there's not going to be room for a traditional air cleaner or even a tube to attach to a traditional air cleaner. So this is the air cleaner you're going to need to run a large turbo on the stock manifold. One of these. It's short and it fits in a tight location. So this is what we're going to have to do. And this is going to have to go on the new turbo before I put it on, because there's not going to be enough room to pull it on and pull it off. So this particular turbocharger I'm putting on is going to require removal if you ever want to change your air cleaner out, or at least get it out of the way to take off the air cleaner and put it back on. But these air cleaners will last a long time before you got to clean them. But a small price to pay for big performance. So, next thing I'm going to do is disconnect the oil line, the bottom drain line. And there's a hose clamp holding it there, so I can just remove this hose clamp and get it lined up. Remove the oil return line, which is on the very bottom of the turbo. Okay. We loosen these 4 17mm, and let's see if I can get in with this. Okay, got 3 of the 4 loose. Now I just need the 4th one. Hopefully I got that. 4th one. 4th one's always the tightest. There's not much room to get to this with a socket or a wrench. But having the shaved 17 should help me here. Yeah, this last one is really tight back here. Okay, I got it semi-loose now with the shaved 17. But still got a ways to go. In some cases, you can take this off, the compressor housing, to give you more access to it, but I'm trying to do it without doing that. That's probably why it's taking me so long. I'm doing it kind of the harder way. I guess I sometimes end up doing things the hard way a lot. With the box open end, it's coming along. It just takes a while because that's a tight location. Well, this nut's loose. Look at that, there's one. Good deal, I got one off. Woohoo! One nut is off. Now I want to get the hardest one off. That's the one I want to focus on. And once that's off, the rest will be fairly simple. And of course, putting these back on is going to be hard too with this larger compressor. So there's going to be a challenge or two right there. But, you know, with the engine out, this is definitely a lot easier because if the engine's in, you're just going by sense of feel, which is kind of what I'm used to anyway. Sense of feel. Alright, here comes this nut. Nut number 2. With a turbo as big as this new one, it's kind of the reason I'm putting it on with the engine out, because it's going to be a lot easier, because me trying to do this with the turbo or the engine in the car, it's a lot harder than it needs to be. It don't need to be that hard. So you can take these last 2 nuts off. Look at that. I like it when they get finger loose. On the factory gasket, it has a tab that goes against the nut to prevent it from backing off. You don't really need them, but if you want to use that same kind of gasket, you can. It's just more work getting the turbo off. There we go. Got the turbocharger off. Now you can see the oil return line right here. Here's the oil return line I'm going to put on the new turbo. Here's the oil supply I'm going to put on the new turbo. And that's that. Okay. Alright. We're going to start installing, or preparing to install, the new turbocharger. So basically what you got to do is take the old fittings off the other turbo, put them on the new one. So here's the new turbocharger. It's a GT3582. I needed to change to this turbo because the other one has ball bearing water cooling lines, and I'm not set up for cooling lines on my particular setup anymore. The factory 86 turbo setup has the water cooling lines in and out. I had removed them and blocked them off to put on a TO4E because it just has the oil supply and oil return lines. And this GT35 is basically the same as the other one, except it's a journal bearing, not a ball bearing. See how it's got? It's a GT3582, nice sized compressor wheel and nice sized turbine wheel, nice sized turbocharger. So we're going to basically start changing out the TO4E fittings for the GT45 fittings. So first off, I'm going to do the oil return line. So find the right socket for that. Looks like that's going to be, let's see, this is SAE. I'm going to switch to metric, and I believe it's going to be a 12 millimeter. Yes, 12 millimeter. Alright, so we'll see if this thing's powerful enough to remove it. If not, I'll use a regular wrench. Yep, plenty powerful. Okay, took the 2 bolts off, and the new turbo come with some gaskets, so we will install some new gaskets. We got the new turbine divided flange gasket that'll go on when we put the turbocharger to the exhaust manifold, And here's oil supply and oil return. We're going to use oil return gasket. And okay, first off, we're going to put some sealant on the gasket. Now I take the little oil return line off. Looks all clean and everything. And I'll show you better once I get all this done which way I have to go, because I have to change the turbo clocking, because this T3 flange goes up here, but the return's got to be 6 o'clock position, so I have to clock the turbine housing, and I'll also have to clock the turbo's compressor to go the way I want it to go. So more to follow. I'll show you what I end up doing. You take a 13 millimeter and you loosen all these little bolts right here. Now you are able to clock the turbo. See? I can clock the turbo to where I want it. I want this at 6 o'clock, so I'm going to clock the turbo. Now the oil supply is on the top, 6 o'clock position. This is where I want to be. So I'm going to mock the turbo on the manifold, make sure I've got my adjustment correct. Alright, got this up in the air. Okay, make sure I'm lined up. Here, so we'll put the lines back on it here, and we will put it on. Okay, so I'm going to tighten this a little bit. The return hose to it. I'll let you see this. Here's the return line. I'm going to hook that up first. Let's see here. Yeah. See how she fits. Pretty good. Okay. And see how the other side fits. Pretty good. Okay. First, put it on this one. And put the little one on. And put this one on like so. Yeah, put it the same way. Alright. Alright. Now, I have a couple nuts ready to hold this in place. Alright, there's one. Here's two. Hold this in place here. Tighten it a little bit just to hold it in place. Okay, there's that. I'm going to take the clamps. Oops, I forgot something important. What did I forget? I forgot the air cleaner. Because the air cleaner is not going to fit on there once I get the turbocharger off. So I'm going to have to put this air cleaner on first. So reverse what I just did here. I'm going to have to undo this. There we go. Next, let's put the air cleaner on. Slip this air cleaner on this big old turbo here. Okay. Okay. Turbo's clocked. Air filter is on. I took the engine mount off right here. And I'm going to take the engine mount and I'm going to cut it on the side so the air cleaner fits better. That's what I have to do to make it work. That's what I have to do to make it work. So now, put the turbo on. Yeah, get this oil line started. Oh boy. It's going to be a tight fit, but guess what? I'll make it fit. Put this here. And this here. Just get this thing to line up so I can put it on. Just line it up. Okay. Next. Yeah, I'm going to have to get this line to line up better. Alright. Put the bolt, start putting the nuts on. Tighten it up. There we go. Got the turbo started. Yep, got the turbo started. I'll get the easy ones on first. Easy nuts first. See how that air cleaner's a tight fit, but it does fit. So I've got this big GT35 in the stock location, and pretty much putting it on is just like reversing the process, you know. Hook up the return line and the clamps. That can be done with the turbo on. I'm going to trim this quite a bit so I can put the mount on and fit it with the air cleaner. It's going to be a tight fit, so yeah, that's going to be a tight fit. We'll deal with that in a little bit. This mount's going to be a kind of a tight fit. Yeah, it's going to be a tight fit. Tight fit. Yeah, I'll be cutting this right here, putting the mount back on, and it should line up. Tighten the turbo bolts and nuts. Of course, the last one's the hardest. I will do that last, of course. There we go. And, you know, one of the last things, you put the turbo oil line back on. Tighten it up with a 16mm. Yep, 16mm. There we go. And that's how that goes. There we go. That's the turbo. Here's that low profile air filter that can fit between the motor mount on the driver's side of the Nissan 300ZX Turbo. The air filter that fits the low profile, you can find it on eBay for $9.99 plus shipping. So just say it costs about $15. Okay, about $25 you can get this Edelbrock low profile air filter that will fit in the clearances of the big GT35 Turbo. And its part number 43612 Edelbrock ProFlow Universal Conical Air Filter, and you can remove it enough for the 4-inch intake for the GT35. Also, if you don't want to do all the cutting I had to do on my motor mount, you can buy these motor mount kits, and the motor mount kit is right here. The motor mount kit for the Nissan 300ZX Turbo is about $55. Solid engine motor mounts, and you can see that they're a better size, more compact, and they can fit in tight locations where it gives you more room for the turbocharger in the factory location. So just another note I wanted to give you guys, so to make the job easier of putting a GT35 on a 84 through 89 Nissan 300ZX Turbo Z31. Okay, here's the final setup. I trimmed the engine mount on the side where it was not allowing the turbo to fit. I got it bolted back on. I got the turbocharger on. I put the turbo on first, took off the left-hand engine mount, ground it down, and kept checking for fitment, and I finally got it to where it fits. I mean, you could barely get a feeler gauge between there, but hey, it fits. And the air cleaner element breathes all the way around. Engine mount's there. Big GT35 is there in the factory spot for a 1984 through 1989 Nissan 300ZX Turbo. So you can put a big GT45 T3 flange in place of the factory tiny turbocharger. I just did it. And when I put it back in the Z and I start this baby up and drive it, we're going to have some fun videos after that. Hope you enjoyed this video. When I put it all back in the car, I'll show you how it runs. How you get a GT35 to fit in the stock turbo location on a 1984 to 1989 Nissan 300ZX Turbo, so you don't have to run that tiny little T3 turbo when you get this big one in there. Alright, well, you guys have a great day. Bad boosting.